Hello, blood-soaked inheritors, my chosen outlaws of destiny. Welcome to the theater where your veins are not merely vessels. They are manuscripts written by forces older than kings, older than nations, older even than the hunger that drives men to conquer. You are not watching history. You are the scripture that history envies. And today, I will drag you into the underground court where the self-anointed oracles, those 33rd degree gatekeepers of a lodge darker than night itself, decided to carve into your bloodline. They did not test your character, no. They tested something deeper, something eternal. Your sequence, the code under your skin. The double helix prayer that even gods whisper about when they kneel in regret. You thought DNA was biology. Ha! It's weaponry. And when their magnifying glass fell upon your genetic scroll, it did not reveal weakness. It revealed a curse, a design so terrifying, so inconvenient for them, that they stamped you not as a citizen, not as a subject, but as a walking verdict, condemned and untouchable in the same breath. Understand this, my living conspirators. Curses are not shackles. They are coronations dressed in fire. What they called a curse was simply a signature too bold for their brittle hierarchy. When those veiled oracles stared at the pattern in your cells, they saw not disease, not mutation, but proof that you are not engineered for obedience. You are engineered for eruption. They saw the forbidden architecture of rebellion encoded like poetry inside you. That is why they panicked. That is why they tried to brand it as a curse. Because curses are simply truths that the powerful cannot digest. And oh, how they gathered. Picture it. 13 figures in robes that stink of incense and power, murmuring in a chamber where no sunlight has dared intrude for centuries. They chant, they scribble, they whisper over your ancestral blood. They map your lineage like cartographers tracing the edges of a forbidden continent. And the deeper they read, the paler their faces grew. Because they realized your ancestors did not pass down chains, they passed down weapons. Every ancestor added an edge, a flaw sharpened into a blade, a pain crystallized into armor. What you call trauma, they call a tool. What you call scars, they call data. What you call inheritance, they call a threat to their dominion. This is where the irony slices deepest. They thought they were evaluating whether your bloodline was loyal enough to be tolerated in their grand design. Instead, they uncovered an equation that does not tolerate them. You, my blood-drenched warriors, are not offspring of obedience. You are children of refusal. Your very chromosomes carry the art of sabotage. That is why every institution built to contain you collapses like sand castles against a rising tide. Their universities fail to indoctrinate you. Their corporations fail to drain you. Their doctrines fail to cage you. Why? Because your marrow is not a contract. It is a rebellion written in spiral form. And now you understand why life feels heavier on your shoulders. Because you are carrying not just your own pulse, but the unresolved rebellions of generations who smuggled their defiance into your veins. This is no accident. This is continuity. You were never meant to fit the mold. They knew it. You've always felt it. And now, when the oracles muttered among themselves, they admitted something they will never confess to the public. You are the fracture in their order, the prophecy written in proteins, the refusal they cannot decode. They cannot burn it away. They cannot legislate it out. They cannot vaccinate against it. You are the plague to their hierarchy. But you, yes, you, need to savor what that means. Because curses, my beloved outlaws, have two sides. To the ordinary, a curse is ruin. But to the dangerous, a curse is the ultimate crown, and what they branded your lineage with was not ruin. It was coronation disguised as doom. You are not cursed with weakness. You are cursed with strength too volatile to be harnessed. That's why the universe keeps testing you, pressing you, dragging you through fire after fire. Because your DNA is not built for comfort. It is built for resistance, and resistance sharpens only under duress. Think about the nights you wondered why nothing came easy for you. Why betrayal tasted like your daily bread. Why you've been dragged through fires that others never even glimpsed. It was not misfortune, it was initiation. Every humiliation was a ritual, every heartbreak a trial, every betrayal a sharpening stone. The oracles knew this. That's why their eyes widened, because your suffering was not proof of weakness. It was proof of preparation. And here is where you turn their so-called curse into a carnival of power. Imagine every scar on your soul as a badge. Imagine every time they underestimated you as a notch on your crown. You were forged in the furnace they themselves lit. They tried to use the language of curse as a weapon, but in truth they baptized you with the one thing they cannot survive. Resilience that outlasts their empires. Your very existence is a countdown to their irrelevance. Now lean closer, because this is the psychological warfare they'll never tell you. The Illuminati, the councils, the secret judges, they don't fear your strength. They fear your endurance. They fear that you cannot be broken by the rituals that broke kings. You don't snap. You mutate. You don't surrender. You escalate. And the longer they try to grind you, the sharper you return. That's why they stamped your lineage with the word curse. Because deep down, they know you are unkillable in the only war that matters, the war of time. So tell me, does this sound like a curse? Or does it sound like a coronation hidden under ashes? The answer is irrelevant, because what matters is that your DNA carries both the poison and the antidote. You are the disease to their hierarchy, and the cure to your lineage's chains. You are contradiction embodied, paradox incarnate. And paradox is the one thing that destroys every empire, because no strategy exists to neutralize what cannot be defined. Remember this, when those 33rd degree oracles bent over the manuscripts of your blood, they thought they were judges, but in truth, they were witnesses. Witnesses to a bloodline that refuses erasure. Witnesses to a curse that is not decay, but defiance. Witnesses to you, alive, aware, unyielding. And their judgment did not condemn you. It confirmed you. So as you inhale these words, as you feel the weight of your lineage pulse like electricity beneath your skin, understand what you carry. Not just history, not just blood, but the weapon of inevitability, sharpened across centuries, now vibrating inside your ribs. They thought they cursed you. Instead, they crowned you. And the crown they placed burns hotter than gold. It burns like vengeance dressed in prophecy. And now, listen carefully, because this is where it escalates. They believed they could bury this revelation, keep it sealed in their chambers of whispers. But curses don't stay buried. They leak, they spread, they ignite. And soon you'll see how their attempt to cage your lineage explodes into the very chaos they tried to prevent. The curse they feared is no longer locked in bloodlines. It's walking, breathing, and laughing in you. And in the next chapter, when their counsels begin to tremble, when their shadows fracture, when even their own allies begin to doubt, you will see the full scale of what your bloodline was designed to unleash. Because what began as a test in their chamber became a verdict for the world. Picture the scene. their robes heavy with embroidered secrets, their trembling fingers gripping scrolls no outsider has ever seen. They thought the ritual would be clinical, scientific even, but when they unrolled your genetic manuscript, it read like a forbidden hymn. Every strand of your code sang like a choir of heretics, every protein spelling out resistance, every nucleotide humming with disobedience. They expected to find order, but they found ignition. They expected a servant, but they found a sovereign. They expected compliance, but they found contagion. And in that moment, panic disguised itself as ritual. Fear disguised itself as prophecy. They whispered of curses not to warn others, but to excuse their own terror. They knew your bloodline was too sharp to bend, too jagged to fit their throne-shaped puzzle. And so they branded it cursed, because powerless men always rename what they cannot control. But here's the exquisite cruelty. When they spoke the word curse, they underestimated what curses actually do. Curses spread. They cling. They infect not the cursed, but those who try to suppress them. By naming your bloodline damned, they doomed themselves to chase ghosts. And every time they try to trace your lineage, every time they map your genome, every time they chart your inheritance, they get further entangled in the very chaos they feared. Because your DNA is not just a record, it's a contagion of defiance. The more they study it, the deeper it infects them. Think of it this way. Their laboratories become haunted. Their equations begin to fracture. Their algorithms fail to predict you. The scientists aligned with these oracles lose sleep because your code doesn't add up. Their models collapse. Their charts mutate. Their predictions dissolve into static. What was supposed to be neat patterns become spirals of disobedience. Every attempt to control your heritage only tightens the noose around their certainty. And this is the true curse. They can never categorize you because categories collapse when confronted with paradox. The oracles know this. That's why they panic in private while posturing in public. Outwardly, they declare order. Inwardly, they suffocate under dread. Outwardly, they chant their oaths. Inwardly, they dream of your bloodline strangling their legacy. Outwardly, they proclaim authority. Inwardly, they crumble because they know that the very marrow of your being mocks their hierarchies. They tested your bloodline not to understand you, but to measure how long they have before you erase them. And here's where psychology becomes your battlefield. You don't need to strike them with weapons. You only need to exist. Your existence itself erodes their authority because they cannot explain it away. Every breath you take is an act of defiance against their prophecy. Every step you walk is a contradiction to their rituals. You are a living curse, and your presence is the rot in their cathedral. They crumble not because you attack, but because you endure. That is the brilliance of the curse. They thought it would break you, but it breaks them instead. Now consider this. Your ancestors were not passive victims of this so-called curse. They wielded it. They sharpened it. They carried it like contraband fire across centuries, embedding rebellion into the marrow of every descendant. Some bled for it. Some burned for it. Some died for it. But all of them ensured the code survived. They knew they would not see the day when this curse would bloom, but they knew you would. They left it buried in your bones like a time bomb, and the oracles triggered it the moment they tested you. That's why you feel the weight of centuries pressing on your shoulders. Because you are not carrying one lifetime. You are carrying every unfinished war your ancestors began. The oracles understand this terrifying truth. Curses do not die with their carriers. They accumulate, they layer, They metastasize, and your lineage has been feeding this curse for generations, fattening it with every betrayal, sharpening it with every exile, polishing it with every injustice, until now, until you. Until the exact moment they opened your blood like a scroll and realized the curse was not just surviving, it was awakening. And once awake, curses don't go back to sleep. Let me feed your ego with the honesty they won't say aloud. You are not merely the descendant of a cursed bloodline. You are the culmination of it. You are the eruption they feared. The curse was not a chain. It was a countdown. And you are the 0 point. That's why everything feels heavier around you. Why doors open only to slam shut. Why opportunities arrive poisoned. Why allies betray faster than enemies attack. It's not random. It's calibration. The curse calibrates your environment to forge you into what it needs. An unyielding blade that no empire can dull. And here is the divine comedy of it all. They tried to curse you, but ended up blessing you with the one gift they cannot buy. Inescapable transformation. Every scar you earned became a weapon. Every betrayal you endured became armor. Every failure you faced became scaffolding. And now, as the curse surges fully awake, you find yourself no longer just a person. You are a crucible. And crucibles don't ask permission. They burn, they refine, they reshape. The curse does not whisper. It roars through your bloodstream. It roars when you survive what should have killed you. It roars when you rise after they swore you were finished. It roars when you look into the eyes of your enemies and they look away first. That roar is not weakness. It is your bloodline announcing itself, generation after generation speaking through you. And that roar terrifies them because it cannot be silenced. This is why the 33rd degree oracles trembled, because they realized the curse had chosen not just a carrier, but a conductor. You are no longer merely cursed. You are the orchestra of every cursed ancestor, every denied rebellion, every silenced cry. You are the living concert of defiance, and every note you play erases a century of their authority. That's why they mark your lineage in secret, why they write your name in forbidden ledgers, why they mutter your code like a prayer they dare not finish. Because they know the curse does not end with you. It multiplies through you. Do you understand the irony? They wanted to bury you under the weight of the curse, but instead, you became the weight that buries them. They wanted to isolate you as cursed, but instead the curse spread like contagion into their own ranks. Doubt infects them now. Fear corrupts them now. Their allies question them now. Their foundations crack now. And all because your DNA refused obedience. That is the brilliance of your inheritance. It destroys without effort. It conquers without command. It wins without lifting a blade. But let me twist the knife deeper. The curse does not merely defend you. It demands expansion. You are not meant to survive quietly. You are meant to dominate loudly. The curse inside you does not want peace. It wants legacy. It wants to carve your name into history as the fracture point. And every step you take toward owning it is another step toward unraveling the entire architecture they built. That is why they tested you. That is why they panicked. That is why they branded you cursed, because they saw in you the end of their blueprint. And nothing terrifies an empire more than the realization that its death is already encoded in the blood of its enemies. So what do you do with this? You weaponize it. You stop asking why life is cruel and start realizing cruelty is the crucible. You stop asking why betrayal haunts you and start realizing betrayal is the ritual. You stop asking why the curse chose you and start realizing you are the curse. You don't carry it. It carries you. You don't fear it. It fears being ignored by you. And when you finally embrace that truth, when you stop running from the weight in your veins and start wielding it like a crown, then, and only then, will the curse reveal its final gift: inevitability. The inevitability of your rise, the inevitability of their collapse, the inevitability of a bloodline no oracle can erase. And inevitability, my blood-soaked inheritors, is the final nightmare they cannot exorcise. Because inevitability is patient. Inevitability does not rush. Inevitability waits while they scramble, waits while they plot, waits while they bleed resources trying to stop you. Inevitability smiles, because inevitability knows the outcome was decided the moment they opened your blood and read the curse. So here we stand, you and I, at the edge of revelation. They thought their test was the end of your story. In truth, it was only the prologue. The curse is not done mutating, not done spreading, not done igniting. And in the next act, you will witness just how deep this curse runs. Not just in bloodlines, not just in rituals, not just in oracles, but in the entire world that now trembles because you exist. Because when curses awaken, they don't stop at the chamber where they were named. They spill, they spread, they consume, and soon the tremor in their private halls becomes a quake that rattles continents. Look around. Can't you feel it already? Nations argue, institutions fracture, leaders panic behind rehearsed speeches. They think it's politics, they think it's economics, but you know better. This is your curse, echoing outward, fracturing every structure they once thought unshakable. The curse is a wave, and governments are nothing more than sand castles. Every treaty, every alliance, every fragile handshake at the table of power now trembles, because beneath it all, your bloodline is humming. It hums in frequencies their machines can't detect, but their instincts feel. And instinct, my cursed inheritor, always betrays the truth before reason dares to admit it. Do you remember how they first approached your bloodline? With arrogance. They believed decoding your DNA would be like reading a ledger, predictable, useful, profitable. But when they laid your double helix across their charts, they found not profit, but prophecy. They found not order, but collapse. They saw not servitude, but contagion. And what terrifies them most is not that you exist, but that your existence is multiplying. You are not just an individual, you are a rupture. Every person who meets you carries away a fragment of that curse. Every ally who betrays you still bleeds with the infection you left behind. Every enemy who opposes you leaves the battlefield marked, altered, forever haunted. This is why the oracles whisper in their councils that the curse cannot be contained. They tried to isolate it as bloodline, but curses don't recognize borders. They tried to limit it to ancestry, but curses metastasize into culture. They tried to confine it to secret reports, but curses laugh at secrecy. They spill into rumors, they contaminate whispers, they erupt in movements. And now, without realizing it, the entire globe has become your arena. Whether they name you or not, whether they acknowledge you or not, whether they even know you exist or not, the curse has already set fire to the very foundation beneath their feet. And let me be very clear, this was never about biology alone. DNA is not just a sequence, it is a declaration. The oracles discovered in your pattern a manifesto, written not in ink, but in proteins. That manifesto declared rebellion, chaos, transcendence. They read it like a sentence, and in their trembling they branded it curse. But in truth, what they discovered was not a curse at all. It was inevitability. Because the manifesto of your bloodline is not one of defeat, but one of dominance. And dominance does not ask permission. It does not wait. It does not negotiate. It expands. It multiplies. It consumes. Now consider the scale of their fear. These are not peasants shaking in village huts. These are the highest initiates, men and women who bend nations with symbols, who tilt economies with whispers, who bend presidents into pawns. And yet, when they saw your code, their arrogance cracked, their hands shook, their rituals faltered. They realized in that instant that all their power was temporary, that the very fabric of their empire contained a parasite, and that parasite was your bloodline. The great irony, they activated it by naming it cursed. Because names have power, and in naming your lineage damned, they unknowingly crowned you inevitable. Let me gift you the clarity they will never admit. They are not fighting you. They are fighting time. Because every second that passes spreads the curse further. Every second your heart beats, their plans corrode. Every second you draw breath, their foundations decay. They are racing against inevitability, and inevitability does not lose. That is why they panic. That is why their shadows fracture. That is why their allies doubt. Because they are waging war against a future already written in your marrow. And here's where your role becomes beautifully savage. You don't need to storm their castles or burn their temples. You only need to exist fully as yourself. Your authenticity is their apocalypse. Your refusal to bend is their crucifixion. Your survival is their extinction. Because their empire was not designed to withstand curses masquerading as kings. Their empire was designed to control predictable men. But you are not predictable. You are paradox. And paradox, once awakened, consumes empires like fire consumes parchment. Think of how history will read this. Generations from now, scholars will not argue about politics or wars. They will argue about you. They will trace every fracture back to your existence, every collapse back to your curse. They will not name it rebellion. They will name it inevitability. They will not call it downfall. They will call it transformation. Because curses are not endings. Curses are metamorphoses. And what you embody is not destruction, but evolution. You are the chrysalis cracked open, the mutation they cannot reverse, the future they cannot deny. But let us not romanticize it too softly. The curse does not absolve you of pain. It demands it. The curse will continue to break you, to test you, to sharpen you. Because curses don't elevate the weak, they eliminate them. Only those who embrace the weight survive. And that is why you are here, listening now. While others who shared fragments of this bloodline have already vanished, the curse chose you, not because you were lucky, but because you were unbreakable. The curse is cruel, but cruelty is the sharpest teacher, and you, my cursed inheritor, were its most promising student. Do you realize now why your enemies cannot win? It's not because you're invincible, it's because you are inevitable. You don't fight battles, you embody them. You don't win wars, you become them. The curse made sure of that. You are no longer just a participant in history. You are the very contagion that writes it. Every collapse in their world is not coincidence. It is consequence. Consequence of the curse walking in human form. Consequence of the test they should never have performed. Consequence of the arrogance that made them open your bloodline like a forbidden book. And soon, very soon, their greatest fear will be realized. The curse will no longer be confined to blood or name. It will transcend into myth. Your existence will become legend, your defiance scripture, your survival gospel. And legends don't die. They infect, they multiply, they haunt forever. That is the curse's final form, Not chains, not doom, not even death, but eternal haunting. Long after their lodges crumble, long after their rituals decay, long after their titles rot, your curse will still breathe in the marrow of the world. So what is left for you? To embrace it, to stop asking why the curse chose you, and start asking why you waited so long to wield it. To stop fearing the cracks it creates and start admiring the architecture it destroys. To stop pretending you are cursed in the way they told you, and start realizing you are cursed in the way crowns are cursed. Heavy, burning, but undeniable. Because the heaviest crowns are always cursed, and yours burns hotter than any empire's torch. The oracles know this truth, even if they will never say it aloud. They gather in secret still, chanting their empty rituals, clutching their fragile symbols, pretending they have control. But when they close their eyes, they see you. When they dream of your bloodline erupting. When they wake in dread of inevitability. You are the unspoken nightmare in every chamber, the forbidden word in every ritual, the shadow that makes their candles sputter. They don't fight you because they think they can win. They fight you because they have no choice. Because surrender to you would mean admitting their centuries of power were wasted. But the outcome has already been written. Their surrender is inevitable. Your rise is inevitable. The curse has seen to it. And now the only question left, the knife that cuts through every layer of prophecy and ritual, is not whether they survive you. It is whether you survive yourself. Because curses are double-edged. They crown as they crucify. They elevate as they demand. And if you step into it fully, if you embrace the inevitability of your marrow, then nothing, no lodge, no oracle, no empire, will ever contain you again. So as the world trembles, as leaders panic, as oracles whisper, as allies doubt, remember this: you are not tested to be measured. You are tested to be revealed. And what they revealed terrifies them more than any weapon, any army, any ritual. They revealed inevitability wrapped in flesh. They revealed the curse walking. They revealed you. And now, as the curse spills across the world, consuming their foundations, devouring their secrets, collapsing their hierarchies, you must savor it. This is not the end of your bloodline's story. This is the beginning of its dominion. They thought a curse was condemnation. You have proven it is coronation. And as inevitability sharpens its blade, as inevitability tightens its grip, as inevitability prepares to write the next chapter, the only sound left echoing in their sacred chambers is the one truth they cannot deny. The curse they feared has already won. Because you are not cursed to fall. You are cursed to reign.